Hey, before we get into this video, please note that this video will spoil the main story for all 3 mainline Xenoblade games, so if you haven't beaten all of them yet, I recommend putting this in your watch later folder so you can come back when you're ready. Alright, let's get into the video. If you're watching this video on the day it released, happy Valentine's Day! If you're not, well, happy belated Valentine's Day. Since we don't have anything better to do today I'm going to be analyzing every single Xenoblade couple and how well they were written into the story. If you're noticing I'm not doing Xenoblade X, it's because I don't have a Wii U gamepad battery or Xenoblade Chronicles X. So subscribe so I can get into the partner program so I can pay for all that stuff. But with that out of the way, let's get into the video. The original Xenoblade. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is known for its amazing story and Shulk's overall character growth throughout the game, but something that isn't talked about too often is Shulk and Fiora's relationship. Well, it doesn't necessarily help that she's technically dead for half the game, but I digress. The two were childhood friends and grew up really close to each other. Though man at one point in the game goes as far to admit that the two of them secretly have feelings for each other, it's just that they won't admit it to each other yet. However, they won't get to admit it anytime soon, as here come the Mechon to ruin a perfectly good love story. However, Shulk vows to get revenge on Mechon for taking Fiora away from him. Ladies, if your man isn't willing to go on an adventure halfway across the world to get a revenge on a piece of metal that killed you, then he isn't the one for you. And this is where our love story gets put on an indefinite hold, as Fiora is dead. Until she isn't, and actually all of her power is just being used by a Mechon. So then the goal goes from killing Mechon to saving Fiora, which Shulk does somewhat successfully, although I wouldn't call falling off of a building higher than a skyscraper into the ocean necessarily successful. But hey, plot armor quite literally saves both of them and they somehow survive the fall. Then we get the classic scene. Wait, wrong game, sorry you had to see that! So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that Shulk's method was not the most efficient method of delivering water, and it was also very coincidental that she just happened to wake up when Shulk was going for the smooch, but corny kissing aside, I actually really do like this cutscene. It was nice to see Fiora and Shulk reunited, even though the whole Fiora was in a Mechon thing was spoiled to me by Sakurai, and it would have had more of an effect on me if I didn't know she would survive, but it's still a sweet scene that I remember well. However, the Shulk and Fiora thing doesn't really get too much of a spotlight from here on out, besides for Melia and Fiora having a bit of a heart-to-heart about both of them caring about Shulk and how Fiora is hiding the fact that she is slowly losing strength to Shulk to not worry him. However, they do have their cool moments together, like when they go to beat Dixon up, but it takes a backseat to the story for the most part. The two then assumedly get together after the events of Xenoblade 1, however there is no confirmation of it, but I would confidently say they did. I mean, there is a reason the two of them are talking with each other at the end of 1 and nobody else is talking with them. For some reason, I see some people hating on Shulk and Fiora's relationship throughout the game, which I get, because Fiora overall could have been written a bit better to not have her so closely related to Shulk and everything, but I don't think that the relationship between the two is bad at all. It's a basic relationship, but overall I don't think it had to be something amazing, because one story is already amazing as it is. This is kind of the cherry on top. It's something I enjoyed seeing, basic as it may be, and I think the game would be worse off without it. Fiora's character could have been written better, but taking away the relationship between her and Shulk is not how you fix it in my opinion. So overall, it's basic, but it's also their first go-around with this in the series, so I'll cut them some slack. Let's see how Xenoblade 2's story goes. Alright, we go from a basic love story to none at all. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 distinctly lacks a love story throughout the entirety of the game. The closest we get is this scene. However, the game does make some mentions of love between blades and their drivers, as it is completely legal and socially acceptable in their world to marry your blade if you truly do love each other. Seems like a random offshoot that just happened to make it into the game, but Mythra also seems to like Rex just a little bit, as she does get flustered around him in the earlier stages of their relationship. However, as they both become a bit more comfortable with each other, this stuff goes into the past. Xenoblade 2 honestly did not really need a love story within it. The story holds itself up without it. Some games just do not need a secondary plot or a growing romantic interest between some of the characters, and I respect Xenoblade 2 for realizing they do not need that. All of the main characters get a happy ending, with Pyra and Mythra both surviving the world tree getting destroyed. But man, I was looking forward to analyzing each game, but I guess we'll just have to gloss over Xenoblade 2. Now, Xenoblade 3 actually has a great story, as the growing relationship between Noah and Mia realizing that the feelings they have for each other is defined as love is something that is really cool to see. Unfortunately, Xenoblade 3's ending leaves us on a cliffhanger, and the two star-crossed lovers end up having to part at the end. Wait, go back a second. Is that Xenoblade 2's cast? So this is the closely held secret that people tell you just have to play the game to see. This picture does not hold much weight for anyone who has not played Xenoblade 2, but for those who did, this picture is a shock to the system. In the picture, we see the entire Xenoblade 2 cast a bit more grown up than when we last saw them, with Rex noticeably getting much taller, but what really became the bombshell was Mythra, Pyra, and Nia holding children in the picture, and Rex coincidentally standing over all 3 of them, leading the player to assume that yes, Rex married all three of them. The character that was made fun of for straight up rejecting Mia's feelings for him, although later on in the game he realizes he did that, and the two come to the conclusion that they'll have a discussion about it after the events of the game, just managed to marry three of the most powerful blades in existence. Rex got a lot of shade thrown his way early on in Xenoblade 2's lifespan, and was quite a divisive character in the community. Some loved him, and some hated him. Everyone's got their own opinion. I personally thought Rex was an amazing protagonist, but sometimes I feel like Takahashi saw all of the shade thrown Rex's way and was not about to let him get disrespected like that. Regardless of shock value, as of the writing of this video, we have no canon interaction from Xenoblade 2's cast after the game besides for Poppy and Nia interacting at the end of Xenoblade 3, so it is nigh impossible for me to analyze any of this quite yet. We also don't know who exactly the children are, although Mio is heavily implied to be Nia's child. Brian and Mithra's children are nowhere to be seen in game, at least we think. Perhaps the Xenoblade 3 story DLC will give us more clarity on the situation. So overall, Xenoblade 2's story is completely fine without the love story, and I respect the developers for not shoehorning in a bad one, and rather letting it simmer for 5 years before they dropped the bombshell. I think that was planned? Probably, but I'm interested to see where they go from here with this. Okay, got a bit off topic there. Let's actually analyze Xenoblade 3's couple, Noah and Mio. Noah and Mio immediately hit it off in-game, being the two voices of reason in trying to get the Agni and Kavesi groups back together. However, as the game progresses, it becomes much clearer that perhaps they have bigger feelings for each other, although they don't realize it. Monica realizes this when Noah shifts over to specifically cover Mio's side when the city decided, yeah, we're just going to flank Noah's group and explain nothing. There are many other instances in the game where Noah and Mio will stand up for each other, and although everyone in the group is important, Noah and Mio both value protecting each other above all else. Something that becomes incredibly apparent to the player of the game, that they have feelings for each other, is not known to the cast, as they never experienced it before, or even heard of it. Only until after the seed tells them what it is, they begin to figure out that their feelings do translate to that. It also helped that Noah saw his love die in front of his eyes, so he learned that if you truly love someone, you want to protect them with your life, or even live eternally with them. Wait a second. Unfortunately, that came with the cost of killing the dream that they founded, the city, and although this would make it seem that In is this terrible person, Noah's group slowly realizes, with a little help from M, that In never had bad intentions by doing this. He wanted to live his life out with M, and although his actions were inexcusable, the party was able to understand why he did what he did. This eventually ended up helping them bring him back to the light, and this allowed Noah and Mio to live the life that N and M once dreamed of living. I could go on and on about this, but to keep it brief, I just think the two dynamic love stories that the game provides is incredible. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, Noah and Mio have to part at the end of the game, but it is implied by Noah hearing the Agni and Austere theme that both of them have memories of each other, contrary to the rest of the cast seemingly having no memories of the events. Once again, perhaps the Xenoblade 3 story DLC will provide more insight on what happens after the game's events, but as for now, that's where it ends. Overall, Xenoblade 3 does a great job of intertwining the love story of Noah and Mio into the story of the actual game, and honestly is my favorite of the three in terms of the couples that each game provides. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next for these two, and the rest of the Xenoblade 3 cast. To sum it all up, I think that each game has a unique enough love story that makes it distinctly there. So even though the romantic interest B-plot has been used 3 times in a row now, kinda in Xenoblade 2, because I guess it really didn't happen until Xenoblade 3's ending, but I digress. It hasn't gone old yet. It's excellent writing, and as long as it's a good story, who doesn't love a love story every now and again? But with that, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing. It's free, and it helps the channel a lot. And consider leaving a comment as well, expressing your opinion about this topic. I read every comment, even the 2,000 word essay ones. But with that, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching again, and have a great day, evening, night, wherever you are. And this is Crystalized, signing out.